So let's just take a look at quality of friend. And this is the most interesting graph. Same graph as I showed you before. I don't know how many looked at the phone graph here, but I've bolded it out because it was fascinating that it stays remarkably constant throughout all the life stages and therefore all the age groups. And even when we looked at a generation, we looked at Gen Y versus Gen X versus Boomer, it actually stayed about the same, and it seemed to be around 10 people. And what we started to look at here is that maybe the people that you would call are in fact the people who are your best friends, who are your highest quality friends. And the fact that you would call them and talk to them is a personal investment. And if you're going to make that investment, then there's only about 10 people or so that you tend to do that with. And as again, more qualitatively, as we went around, it seemed like the people that you call were the ones who were sort of rose to the top of the list as far as the quality side of your friends. So as you're going forward and looking at friends, that might be a measure you want to start to look at, is not just the number of online connections you can make, but how many of them are in fact communicating with their friends on the phone. So have I depressed everyone, or is everyone now confused? Are you rethinking your numbers for the business plan? But anyway, we can talk about that in the Q&A. One thing I want to say is that the group who does have a lot of friends is a great group. I mean, it's a group that most advertisers, most companies, most governments, it's got a lot of things going for it. So that 12%. You know, they're more interested in absolutely everything. They seem to be engaged, and they have a wider variety of interests. They have more interest. They're heavy media consumers, including very traditional media. So we did a global study with the World Association of Newspapers, and we found that, in fact, social network users were more likely to use newspapers, which meant they were the friends of newspapers, not the enemies of newspapers. So they use traditional media. Interestingly enough, they're more likely to use television. So of the group who are our biggest friends group, our 12%, they were 90% of them used television regularly. 75% of them use social networking regularly. So still, television is more prominent within this particular group. They actually care about the world. They're active citizens. They're helping out their neighbors. They're volunteering. They're giving money more so than the other population. And there's not really much of an income skew, because sometimes people say, well, they're just richer or something. They're not necessarily markedly, wealthier than other groups as well. So it's a very, very interesting group. And then back to the local piece, what we also notice is this group is more interested in local news, for example, than they are international news. So there's a great opportunity to build local content for this 12% kind of connectors group. So it's got some great things going for it. Question is, we kind of need more of them, because when I looked at this, I was actually surprised. I don't know if you were surprised, but when I did my own test, I didn't think I was going to come up with 12%. I was probably a little bit skeptical. I kind of went through the dot-com kind of boom and bust, and I became skeptical of a lot of things that are new. So that might be kind of ingrained in me now. But I probably pegged it maybe at 35% who had a lot of friends, and so I was shocked when I got to 12. So I think what we need to do is we need to figure out how do we get more of them in. What I worry about in the social media world is that we really are talking to the converted. We're really developing things for all the people who have tons of friends. And I want to find a way to build more momentum and build more quantity and also build more quality within the relationships. So some of the questions that we're starting to ask within this project is, what's the real benefit for those who are kind of moderate users? We can sort of see the benefit, or the people who are heavy users have found the benefit, but what are the real benefits to the moderate users, those people who have about 10 to 40 friends? What do they see, and what do they get access to that they wouldn't through other channels? That's certainly one of the pieces to this. And what types of relationships will they gain? How do they build those relationships? How do we make this medium more active? What we see within the group of moderate users is that they tend to be a little bit more passive. And we've always looked at social media and other forms of internet media as being very interactive media. This group isn't necessarily that interactive in their kind of nature. So how do we, right now you can see, in fact, even the group that has 0 friends online still goes on to social network sites. But they basically just watch them, they look at them, they might read things. They're not interacting, they're not blogging, they're not doing any of that stuff. They're just using it as a passive medium. And the other one that I wanted to keep people's attention on is that life stage question. Right now, when we look at the world, again, I'm not an expert on social media, and there's lots of people who will be talking throughout the day, but for me, so many of these apps are built for basically high school students, maybe young singles, but then you think about the priority around young singles, young couples is really around the workplace. So social media within the workplace becomes a real priority. Young families, how many social network apps are built for young families? I mean, with the exception of Facebook, which is more ubiquitous. But how do you build momentum through those life stages? How do we take that when we look at how much it gets squeezed at couples? How do we open that up again so that we don't hit a crash in the amount of interactivity we have, and we have to build it up again as people have families? So what's the life stage approach to social technology? Let's put it. The other question I get, and everyone know this guy? Anyone know him personally? No. His campaign is always put up as the way, is the epitome of the way to get young people connected, using social media. What Barack Obama did is he got more young people to vote in the election than what they've been able, well, in history actually. So we got more young people to vote in the United States in history, and the numbers were pretty bad before he got on the scene. And one of the keys to his campaign success, as kind of documented, was his use of social media to engage young people. Even here, though, what I would say is one of the reasons he was successful is he used all forms of media extremely well, not just social media, and I think the media writ large has kind of jumped on the social media. But there's one interesting fact about the success of his campaign that was glossed over, is that he actually didn't do any better than Clinton when it came to young people. The reason he got more young people to vote for him than ever before in that election is there was more young people in the United States. But percentage-wise, he had the exact same youth vote as Bill Clinton did when he got elected without any social media. So I think we need to be careful just to kind of use social media as the answer to everything, and we need to find a way to make sure it's an integrated solution, because I think that's why he was really successful with young people, is he had the television campaign, he had the social media campaign, he had everything else in between, and that's what really engaged young people.